Hello and welcome to StratNews Global. I'm Nitin Gokhale. This week in Simply Nitin, I'm bringing to you a different format of conversation. Instead of me speaking to you directly into the camera, I have a conversation with an expert on China's political party, the Communist Party of China, who was in New Delhi at a conference organized by a think tank called ORCA, which was entitled The New Sinology. So do take a listen and do accept this new format for just this week. I'm Nitin Gokhale. This is a special edition because we are getting guests from a conference being organized in New Delhi, the Global Conference on New Sinology by a New Delhi-based think tank, ORCA, in association with StratNews Global as media partners. And this conversation is part of that series. And with me is a special guest from Singapore, Dr. Lance Gore, a China specialist who has taught in the US on China, Chinese politics, Chinese party system, and also, of course, the foreign policy issues that China has. So welcome to this program, Dr. Lance.
Thank you for having me.
So let me begin with what you had in terms of the presentation that you did at this conference about the foreign policy drivers of China, how the party now dominates foreign policy issues or foreign policy determination as far as China is concerned. What has changed under Xi Jinping, if you can tell us briefly, in comparison to, say, his two predecessors?
Xi Jinping, we all know that Xi Jinping centralized power by creating a few leading groups, first four, then expanded in addition to previous leading groups. He's the head of those leading groups. And all his colleagues in the Politburo Standing Committee are, secondary or member of those leading groups, but he's always the head of those leading groups. By that, he's above his colleagues. So in that sense, he centralized the power. That's one thing. The other thing is he tried to integrate the party and the state. We know that the communist regime usually refer to party state. These two are always in a sort of not very comfortable situations. So Xi Jinping tried to integrate these two, rather than, Deng Xiaoping's time, separate this party from the government so they each do their business better. But Xi Jinping worried about the party losing power, so he has to integrate the party into the daily action of the state, so that party is not going to be marginalized. So that's his innovation, I may say.
Okay. But has this model being applied also to defense policy, you think, or is just foreign policy?
Oh, in defense, I think every area of Chinese government, same thing. Defense has always been under the party. We know that the Central Military Commission, that's a party organ.
Right.
Okay. It has wear the hat of state military, central state military commission, but that's just a name. But essence is still party organ.
Right.
So military is always under party. That's the Maoist principle of the party commanded again.
That's true. In fact, as they say that the PLA is the army of the party rather than the state.
Right.
So that's how.
Right. That's a part of it.
Yes. In terms of foreign policy, going back to how he has integrated party and state organs as far as foreign policy is concerned, does Xi Jinping's foreign policy reflect the thinking in the party, or it is only about he himself determining the foreign policy and then sort of putting it down or percolating it down to the party cadre?
Well, I would say that the Chinese foreign policy since Deng Xiaoping's time, on the whole, is quite consistent, continuous. I mean, not stay the same, but evolving, on the basis of previous policies. So the major difference between Xi Jinping's foreign policy and Deng Xiaoping's, Deng Xiaoping's basic line is to lie low, abiding time. Don't, put yourself up there, become a target of everybody else. When Xi Jinping came to power, China has been, experiencing 30 more years of continuous growth. So has become very powerful, its second largest economy. So Xi Jinping basically moved out of Deng Xiaoping's Lai-Do policy.
Right.
They want to, do some creativity.
Assert himself?
Yeah, assert China. I think, China, such a big country, has to have an impact on the world. You cannot just stay, little brother under the United States.
Right.
So that's for China's big power ambitions. It has to do something.
That's Xi Jinping's philosophy.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. And also that's based upon the growing Chinese power.
Right.
Yeah.
But the two predecessors for Xi Jinping, Hu Jintao and Jiang Zemin, who followed Deng Xiaoping, actually followed Deng Xiaoping's policy and yet achieved the growth that you spoke about, 30 years of uninterrupted growth. So what is it that Xi Jinping feels that he should assert himself more while that policy was still very effective of, say, Hu Jintao and Jiang Zemin?
Well, in his eye, by the end of Hu Jintao's regime, administration, there seemed to be the country is falling apart.
Oh, I see. He thought that, right?
Yeah, all the local government, they do their own thing. They don't listen to the central government. So there was a saying, the central policy do not get out of the gate of Zhongnanhai.
I see. This during Hu Jintao's time.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And within the Zhongnanhai, which is the compound housing central government and the party center,
Right.
within the Zhongnanhai compound, there are 9 members of Politburo Standing Committee, they each in charge of certain area
Sure.
of policy. And they do not have enough coordination. Basically, each of them, in their own domain, they are the king, they are the emperor.
Correct.
So there's a very little coordination. And also, based upon this decentralized power or rise of local sort of a lord, also rise of corruption,
That's right.
So corruption is a major concern.
Mhm.
And the coordination of policy is another major concern. That's why Xi Jinping, made a difference.
Right. So when we look back at 10 years of Xi Jinping and the current status, let's look at the broader picture about his foreign policy, where he has decided to take on the number one power in the world, that is the United States, and also not very friendly with his neighbors, either Japan or India, or even the smaller neighbors in Southeast Asia. He is constantly looking to pick fights. What drives this kind of a policy of Xi Jinping?
I remember when one of his first speech, he said something which at the time I didn't quite understand. He said nobody should expect that we should swallow the pill of undermining China's interest. So that statement is quite vague. Of course, in his mind, there's something concrete there.
Right.
So you over time you see, first announcing the identification zone on the East China Sea.
Right.
Then you build the island in South China Sea, and asserting, in a competition with India on the borders, that border has never been clearly, demarcated. But he said that's a national interest. We have to stay firm on those interests. So on those issues, his policy gives the impression he become assertive and become sort of aggressive.
Right.
Yeah.
So, speaking about India-China relations, you just referred to the border. That is the biggest wrinkle, if I may call that. It's not an exact word that describes it. Right now, that is what is driving the tension between, or the deterioration of the relationship between India and China. Where do you think Xi Jinping situates the border issue in his mind as far as India is concerned?
I think he would like to make the border issue a technical issue. That's just, we haven't decided which border. He tried to, not to make it a political issue.
Right.
But on the Indian side, obviously that's quite different. If you do not solve that problem, then our relationship is not going to be normal.
Right.
So, in a sense, has been consistent. South China Sea issue is also a technical issue. Right. Okay, we claim that a long time ago, before the Communist Party came to power, we already claimed that. And we could claim that using the warship of the United States given to KMT, to circle around there and mark all those islands. That's our territory.
Right. Right.
So he said that, once we claim that, we cannot back down. So in that sense, it's the same telling Philippines, our dispute is not our whole relationship. Right. It's just a tiny part. We should get along in all these other areas, as usual. Yeah. But this is just, treated as a technical issue. We'll work out somehow.
But in India, like you said, it's not seen like that.
Right.
Clearly, it's a political issue. It's a strategic issue. So, do you think Xi Jinping miscalculated India's response to the recent border standoff?
That part, I think, I don't think it's miscalculated. He knows India is going to react that way, but I think he figured that there is a way to persuade India that treat it as a, technical.
Just one of the issues of the...
Yeah, one of the issues, because these are two major, developing countries, largest and second largest population, right? They have a lot of other issues, more important issues.
Right.
So on the basis of that, he think maybe he can persuade India to adopt the same role, because those disputed areas, mountains are all rocks. It's not very value there.
Right. So one question on again, how the populations in India and China see this border issue. In China, do you think there's any resonance about the border issue with India at all? Is that a core issue of concern for the Chinese population?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. For the Chinese population, the main concerns in Taiwan, South China Sea, East China Sea, I think they have relatively, comparatively speaking, less, comprehension of the border issue along that. But, however, they take comfort in the 1962 war.
Yes.
China won, and China won very decisively, in that sort of put their psyche in a sort of a comfort zone. So it didn't arouse a lot of nationalist, emotions there.
Right. It is the other way around in India because of the 1962 war,
right,
and the political question that comes with it, or the the national psyche that comes with it.
Right.
The border issue does become important for India, and as India has made it clear unless that is settled, other parts of the relationship cannot be normal.
Right.
Do you think there is any way out for this impasse between the two countries?
Oh, that's very difficult. Even if both sides hold on to their position, it's very difficult. I think in terms of territory, I mean, he's tough on territory. You see that the territory in between Russia and China, or the island,
Right. Yes.
China's new map, released new map,
Is that.
claim the whole island.
Correct.
Whereas in Xiang Zemin's time,
Yeah.
half and half. Now they claim the whole.
Correct. Yeah.
So that means, because according to treaties, the borderline should be in the middle of the river.
Sure.
According to that, that's of course is China's. So he stands firm on that. Firmer than Jiang Zemin.
Yes, right. So he'll do the same thing here with India, you think?
I think he is not going to budge on that.
So same thing can happen from the Indian side, that it may not want to budge.
Right,
I mean, that's the indication that we get here.
right.
So we don't see any solution in the immediate future.
If India say, Indians in the BRICS,
Right.
and
In SCO.
20, yeah,
In SCO.
right. And also if India join the Security Council, I
Right.
mean, they have to work on a lot of major issues that has nothing to do
Right.
with the border issue. So would you, refuse to work? Or, you have to sort of, deal with those issues. And once you do that, that means you carry on, business without solving the border issue.
So there has to be some give and take on the
Right.
border issue.
Right.
One final question. One of the things that rattles or bugs China, if I can use that word, is the resonance and the traction that the four countries in the quadrilateral grouping or the Quad is they are getting. America, the United States, Australia, Japan, and India.
Right.
Do you think China or Xi Jinping sees that as a emerging threat or a imminent threat to his power?
This potentially, yes, depend on how this organization evolve, into what kind of extent in terms of, cooperation in the defense side. This, we were called, was brought up a long time ago.
Right.
At the time, Chinese geopolitical situation is very favorable. And when China, express its dissatisfaction, many, including India, Australia backed off,
Yes.
So this time it came together because the U.S.-China competition lead to significant deterioration of China's political, geopolitical situation.
Sure.
So, if you say China is happy with that, no. But China couldn't do anything about it. So they has to deal with it and hope for the best.
Okay. They will keep taking steps to deal with it, I suppose,
Yes.
going forward.
Yes.
But do you think they have any desire, or is there any way forward for improvement in the relationship between the United States and China?
I think, maybe it's just my personal view. U.S. and China relationship has been very rocky. If you compare U.S.-China today, 2023,
Right.
to 2013, I mean, China, still the same China. But U.S. bilateral relations, is totally different.
Right.
So what made the difference? I think it's not really, national interest changed so much, or power relations changed so much. I think it's mostly, thinking, attitude changed. To say that, the implication is that they haven't worked out new equilibrium yet, because their they still have the same kind of national interests. They have to deal with each other on those issues, right? But now you have a much adversary relationship which disrupt those dealings.
Right.
So my thinking is that sooner or later they are going to settle down on some more constructive sort of dealing. Recently, you see a lot of overtures, U.S. China, high-level discussions, interviews, talks, and a stream of high-level officials from U.S. visiting China. I mean, the U.S. has been, becoming aware that this is a big country. We cannot brush it away. We have to deal with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's the reality. You've captured it very well. Dr. Lance Gore, thank you very much for your time and your insights. Very useful for the Indian viewers and our viewers on the YouTube. We will keep coming back to you on sort of drawing on your expertise whenever time arises. But thank you again for your insights and your time.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Viewers, that was Dr. Lance Gore giving us his insights on where China is, where the India-China relation is. And therefore, do keep watching StratNews Global. You know where to reach us. Our social media handles are visible on the screen. Do keep sending feedback. It's valuable to us. And we will continue to bring you such interesting conversations. For the time being, it's goodbye.